No one looked up when the homeless boy appeared, barefoot, ragged, and out of place. But when he shouted, "Don't eat that," across a sea of clinking silverware and silent stares, every fork froze midair. What came next would tear apart reputations, unearth buried truths, and leave the city's wealthiest man questioning everything on his plate and in his life. The Silver Fountain Café was the kind of place where powerful people liked to be seen, nestled between carefully trimmed hedges and the soft trickle of a stone fountain. It was just afternoon, and the whole patio buzzed with quiet luxury. Waiters in spotless shirts moved like clockwork, carrying plates of handcrafted meals and pouring cups of coffee that cost more than a good haircut. Everything smelled warm and rich, like sourdough, espresso, and expensive perfume. But for one man, none of it stood out anymore. At the center table, where the sunlight hit just right, sat Edward King. To most of the city, his name meant money and lots of it. He'd clawed his way up from nothing, flipping homes in his 20s and eventually building an empire that touched every corner of the city. Now, at 72, he wore power like a second skin. The suit, the watch, the subtle flash of gold on his glasses, it all said the same thing: control. Across from him sat Vanessa, decades younger, model gorgeous, the kind of woman who made people stare. Her black hair was sleek, her lips painted the kind of red you remember. But her attention wasn't on Edward. It was locked on her phone, thumbs scrolling, eyes glazed. The diamonds on her wrist caught the light as she spun her bracelet in slow, lazy circles. Her smile was there, but faint, more like a habit than a feeling. Edward skimmed the menu with a quiet hand. For a man who once devoured deals in seconds, he looked unsure. And that's when the voice broke through the calm.
Loud.
Uninvited.
Real.
And everything changed. Not far from the cafe's edge, a boy hovered in the shadows, just beyond the patio fence. He looked too young to be alone and too thin to be ignored. His hoodie was 2 sizes too big, sleeves nearly covering his hands, the hood casting a shadow over his cautious eyes. He didn't belong to the scene, but he'd been part of the street for so long, most people stopped noticing. His name was Noah, not that anyone here had ever bothered to ask. To them, he was just another stray in a city full of them. But he saw everything. Kindly do us a quick favor. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you're touched by this story. Your support keeps us creating and sharing more powerful stories as this one.
Thank you.
Now let's get back to our story. Edward glanced at the time. "You're somewhere else again," he said evenly, not raising his voice, just pressing it gently into the space between them. Vanessa looked up from her phone, her lips curling into a practiced smile. It was polished, perfect, and empty. "No, I'm here," she said sweetly, placing her hand lightly over his. "You know how much I cherish our little dates." Noah's stomach gave a low, angry growl. He edged forward, silent on his feet, until he reached the railing. His eyes locked on Edward's table. A white bowl of soup sat untouched. Fresh bread. A glass of sparkling water catching the sunlight just right. It looked like something out of a commercial. It also looked like survival. Then it happened, quiet, subtle, but enough to make Noah's heart stutter. Edward adjusted his glasses and reached for his phone. And in that breath of distraction, Vanessa's hand dipped smoothly into her purse. Noah's eyes widened as she pulled out a small glass vial. No label, no hesitation. She twisted it open with practiced ease and tilted her hand. The contents slipped into the soup soundlessly, vanishing into the broth without a trace. Noah didn't move, didn't breathe, just watched her stir it slowly, her face calm, her nails glossy and unbothered. She leaned forward, her tone sugar-smooth but sharp enough to slice. "After everything I've done," she whispered, "you're not about to mess this up." Noah blinked hard, unsure if his eyes had played a trick on him. Did that really just happen? Could someone so flawless, sitting in a place this fancy, do something so cold? But deep in his gut, something didn't sit right. Something felt off, dangerously off. His heart thudded like a drum as he crouched lower behind the patio fence. He didn't fully understand what he saw, but the way her voice slid out, sharp and quiet, it left ice in his spine. His hands curled into fists, nails pressing into skin. Nobody else saw it. Nobody else was even looking. Just him. His stomach growled again, yanking him briefly back to his hunger. But his focus stayed locked on that table. Edward looked out of place in his own world, eyes tired, distracted, scrolling through his phone while his spoon hovered above the soup. Across from him, Vanessa was a vision of calm. That fake smile back on her lips. Elbows on the table. Innocent, elegant, deadly. Noah felt the weight of the moment. His mind screamed to stay quiet, to vanish into the background like always. What good would it do? Who'd believe a kid in a baggy hoodie hanging around the edge of a place he clearly didn't belong? Still, he couldn't shake it. His eyes zeroed in on Edward's hand as it moved toward the soup. That was it. He saw her put something in it. He knew it. And he couldn't stand by and watch a man walk into something that couldn't be undone. His body moved before his mind could argue. He shoved off the railing and stepped into the open, legs shaky but steady enough. With every step toward the table, the air seemed to thicken. He didn't even recognize his own voice when it finally cracked out. "Don't eat that." Everything froze. Heads whipped around. Conversations dropped mid-sentence. A fork hit the ground with a loud clatter, but Noah didn't blink. All eyes were on him now, this scruffy kid from the sidewalk, standing between life and something much worse. Edward froze, his spoon hovering just inches from his mouth. He stared at the boy like time itself had hit pause. Vanessa's head snapped around, eyes blazing. "What did you just say?" she snapped, her voice slicing through the cafe like broken glass. Noah didn't flinch. His voice shook a little, but it carried. "She put something in your food," he said louder now. "I saw it. Don't eat it." A wave of shock passed over the cafe like wind through trees. Murmurs swelled. Forks stopped midair. Conversations died. Every eye was on them. Noah stood tall, his chest rising and falling with the force of every breath. Edward looked confused, staring at the boy, then at his wife. "Vanessa?" he asked softly, the spoon now resting on the table, his fingers trembling. The mask on Vanessa's face cracked. Her calm shattered like porcelain. She stood so fast her chair screeched behind her. "You little liar," she hissed, voice full of heat. "How dare you? Who even let you in here?" Noah winced, but didn't move. He locked eyes with Edward, his voice growing steadier. "I watched her," he said. "She poured something in when you weren't looking. Smell it if you don't believe me." Edward's expression shifted. The color drained from his face. Slowly, he turned toward Vanessa. "Is that true?" he asked, quiet but firm, his voice now a different kind of sharp. Vanessa scoffed, waving her hand like she was batting away smoke. "Are you serious? He's just some street kid, probably hungry and looking for attention," she sneered, glancing at Noah with contempt. But Noah didn't back away. He stepped closer. His hands were balled into fists at his sides. "I'm not making this up," he said clearly. "I saw what she did. You deserve to know." Edward's fingers hovered above the soup, caught between what he wanted to believe and what he couldn't ignore anymore. Something in the boy's voice had stopped him. Something real. The cheerful hum of the cafe was gone now, replaced by a thick silence that made even the clinking of a spoon sound loud. He leaned back slightly in his chair, eyes narrowing as he studied the boy. He'd seen a lot in his lifetime: scams, flattery, people using smiles like tools, but this felt different. This kid wasn't trying to win him over. He wasn't begging. He just stood there, still and honest, like the truth was the only thing he had left. "What's your name?" Edward asked, voice level but cautious. "Noah," the boy replied quietly. And I swear I'm not lying. Please don't eat it. Vanessa scoffed, crossing her arms like the whole thing was beneath her. You've got to be kidding, she said sharply, rolling her eyes. Are we really listening to some random kid off the street now? Edward didn't respond to her. Instead, he lifted the spoon again, this time slower, more carefully, as if the steam itself could reveal something he hadn't noticed before. His hand wasn't shaking out of fear. It was restraint.
He was holding back something.
A realization.
A choice.
Vanessa, he said, finally meeting her gaze. What's going on? Her expression stiffened. Her polished calm slipped for just a second. I can't believe you're doubting me, she said, her voice climbing. This is ridiculous.
Just look at him. He's nobody.
You've known me for years. Are you seriously giving him more credit than your own wife? She turned to the surrounding tables, her voice loud now, hoping for backup. But it didn't come. People weren't looking at Noah like a liar. They were watching her, watching how she fidgeted, how her jaw clenched. And slowly, the tide shifted. Whispers spread like cracks in glass. She looks nervous. He doesn't seem like he's making it up. And for the first time, Vanessa looked cornered. The tension cracked like glass. Vanessa's mask shattered as her hands slammed onto the table. Gone was the polished calm, replaced by raw fury. Enough, she barked, her voice low but seething. Edward, just eat your damn soup and let's leave. Now. But Noah didn't flinch. He stepped closer, fists clenched, eyes fierce. If you won't believe me, then get someone who can test it, he said louder now. You've got money. You've got people.
Call a doctor. Call the cops. Just don't eat it.
You'll regret it if you do. Edward's grip on the spoon tightened. He didn't lift it, just stared at the bowl, then at her. His voice came out low and cold. Vanessa, you've been acting off for weeks. And now this. Her face drained of color. I don't know what you mean. Are you seriously suggesting I poison me? Edward finished for her, his tone sharp as a blade. A collective gasp rippled through the patio. Chairs shifted. Utensils paused midair. All eyes locked on them. Noah stood still, his chest rising and falling. He had nothing left to prove. It was up to Edward now. Vanessa drew herself up, trying to reclaim control, but it was brittle. This is absurd, she spat. I don't have to sit here and be insulted. She grabbed her bag, ready to walk. But Edward's hand snapped out, grabbing her wrist. His grip was firm, surprisingly strong. You're not leaving, he said evenly. Not until this is sorted. A waiter finally broke the silence. Sir, should I call someone? The police? The word sliced through the air like a siren. Vanessa's confidence cracked. Panic danced in her eyes. No, she snapped, voice trembling. This is all a misunderstanding. Edward, come on. But he didn't budge. He raised a hand to the waiter, eyes still locked on her. Yes, he said. Call them. Noah's breath hitched, part relief, part fear. The worst wasn't over yet, but the truth had taken its first step into the light. The entire café seemed to freeze. Not a fork moved. Not a glass clinked. The waiter rushed off to make the call, and still no one breathed. Edward slowly let go of Vanessa's wrist, but his eyes stayed locked on her, unblinking, unshaken. Whatever mask of elegance she had worn earlier was cracking fast, her eyes darting around the patio like she was hunting for a way out. Her lips moved, but no words came. Just panic. Just silence. A few feet back, Noah stood still. His hands trembled, fingers balled into tight fists. He had said his truth, spoken up. But now the fear crept in. What if it wasn't enough? What if this powerful woman spun a story and walked away like nothing happened? Still, he held his ground. Then Edward's voice broke through the quiet like thunder. Noah, he said, turning toward the boy. You said she put something in the soup. What exactly did you see? Noah stepped forward, voice low but clear. It was a small bottle like eye drops.
Clear liquid.
She poured it while you were on your phone and stirred it like it was nothing. I swear, I saw her do it. Edward's jaw tightened. He turned slowly toward Vanessa. She was already shaking her head, frantic, scrambling to regain control. This is madness, she said. He's just some street kid making up stories. Why would I? Why would he lie? Edward cut in, his voice sharper now. What would he get out of this? A hush fell again as the crowd leaned in listening. Then came the sound of sirens, distant but unmistakable. Vanessa's eyes flicked toward the bowl. And in that moment, her mask slipped completely. The calm, the control, the charm, it all vanished. Her face twisted, not in anger, but fear. Then, like a cornered animal lashing out, she turned on Noah. You've been stalking us, haven't you? She shouted, her voice brittle. You're just bitter, jealous of people who actually have something. But no one looked at Noah with suspicion. They were looking at her, and they were waiting for Edward to decide what came next. Noah flinched at her words, but didn't budge. I'm not jealous, he said, his voice steady now. I saw it happen. I couldn't just walk away. The sirens grew closer. Seconds later, 2 uniformed officers stepped inside, the energy in the cafe tightening around them like a noose. One officer stepped forward. Someone want to tell me what's going on here? Edward rose to his feet slowly, still dignified, still commanding. This boy says my wife tampered with my food, he said, pointing at the soup in front of him. The officers exchanged a quick glance. One leaned in, cautiously sniffing the bowl. Then he turned to Vanessa. Ma'am, do you have anything to say? Vanessa's face flushed red. This is ridiculous, she snapped. He's just some kid off the street trying to stir trouble. Edward, really? You're letting this go on? The officer stayed firm. We'll need to test the soup, he said, moving to pick up the bowl. No, Vanessa shouted, louder than she meant to. Her voice cracked, and heads turned. The officer narrowed his eyes. Ma'am, is there something we should know before we continue? Vanessa's hands trembled as she clutched her bag. Her eyes bounced between Edward and the officers. Her voice dropped low, sharp like a knife's edge. You want honesty? She hissed. I'm sick of being treated like I don't matter. He was never supposed to outlive this year. And I. She cut herself off. Too late. The room gasped. Chairs shifted. Phones rose. Whispers turned into murmurs. And just like that, the secret she buried came crashing into the light. Edward's skin drained of color. Her words hit harder than a blow. One of the officers stepped forward, his tone grave. Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempted murder. Hands where I can see them. Vanessa's mask cracked. She shrieked and tried to twist away, but the cuffs clicked around her wrists anyway. You don't get it, she yelled, thrashing as they let her off. I earned this life. It should have been mine. Her voice echoed off the cafe walls as stunned diners looked on, their forks frozen midair. Edward didn't speak. He simply leaned back, the weight of everything folding in on him. One trembling hand pushed the untouched soup aside. His eyes, once hard with suspicion, now settled on Noah. The boy stood frozen, unsure if he should leave or stay. But something shifted in Edward's face. Pain still lingered, but something else emerged. Quiet thanks. The betrayal had been real, but so had the boy's courage. The room slowly stirred back to life, a low current of murmurs passing from table to table. Some whispered, some stared. A few filmed it all. Noah didn't move. He didn't know what to do next. Then Edward spoke, gently but with authority. Noah, he said, nodding to the seat across from him.
Come.
Sit. Noah hesitated, glanced around, then took the seat, nervous, unsure. Edward looked him straight in the eye. You saved my life, he said. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Noah sat stiffly, his fingers clutching the table like it might vanish. I couldn't ignore it, he said, his voice low. I couldn't walk away knowing what she did. Edward nodded slowly, eyes fixed somewhere far beyond the cafe walls. Most people would have, he said after a beat. They'd pretend they didn't see a thing. But you didn't. That means something. Noah shifted in his seat. I don't know, he murmured. I just hate watching bad things happen to good people. For the first time, Edward really looked at him. Not as some scruffy kid loitering near the cafe, but as a person. Someone with weight in his eyes. A reason behind every scar and silence. How long have you been out here? He asked gently. Noah hesitated, then glanced down. A while, he muttered, voice touched with shame. Edward didn't push. Instead, he pulled out a sleek phone, tapped the screen, and stepped away. Wait here, he said, before walking off to make a call. Noah's chest tightened. Was this it? Was he in trouble now? Was Edward going to have him thrown out? But when Edward came back, his face had softened. I called someone, he said calmly. They're coming to help. Noah blinked. Help, he asked, unsure if he'd heard right. Edward gave a small nod. I reached out to someone I trust. They'll make sure you've got a bed tonight, somewhere warm, somewhere safe, he said. And if you'll allow it, I'd like to help even more. Noah's eyes flicked up, wide with surprise. You don't need to do all that, he said quickly, his voice tightening. I didn't do this expecting anything. Edward's lips curved into a quiet smile. I know, he said gently. That's exactly why I want to. You did what most people wouldn't dare. And believe me, Noah, if more folks had your heart, this world would be a whole lot kinder. Noah looked down, unsure what to do, with the warmth swelling in his chest. He wasn't used to this. Kindness. Not without strings attached. Around them, the cafe slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but the moment still hung in the air. Edward took a slow sip of water, then spoke again. Sometimes life gives us a moment to rewrite someone else's chapter, he said quietly. You rewrote mine today. Maybe now I can help rewrite yours. Noah looked up. His eyes shimmered, not from fear or hunger, but something he hadn't felt in a very long time, hope. And as they sat there, side by side, the afternoon sun stretched long and golden over the cafe, reminding everyone who had watched that heroes don't always wear uniforms. And the strongest people are often the ones the world almost never sees. In the end, it wasn't just a bowl of soup that was saved, it was a life. Noah's courage that day didn't just stop a tragedy, it lit a fire. A reminder to everyone watching, in that cafe and beyond, that doing the right thing, especially when it's hard, can echo further than we ever imagine. If this story stirred something in you, hit that like and subscribe button. Stick with us for more real stories about bravery, truth, and second chances. And if you know someone who needs that reminder today, that even one small act can change everything, share this with them. Because heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear a hoodie and just refuse to stay silent.